What in the world is Live Nation up to? The live events behemoth recently made a colossal announcement that they are ending the decades-long practice of taking a cut of artist merch sales at their venues, rolling out over the next several months. And though that announcement has widely been cheered and celebrated, it's not the concession everyone thinks that it is. And yes, lots of bands will still see 10 to 30% of their gross merch sales go to Live Nation venues when they perform there. Welcome to Get Offset. My name is Emily, and you're looking cute as a button today. That color looks great on you. But let's go back to venues taking merch cuts. To fully understand what's going on, we need to go back, way back. But first, let's talk about live show economics for a second. There are many ways a band can get paid, but there are two big ones. The first is a guarantee, which if you want to do some back of the napkin math, it's usually base ticket price, no fees, times the venue's full capacity. They usually assume a sellout for a guarantee, in other words. So if you're playing a 500 capacity room and ticket sales are $20, your guarantee will be $10,000, even if you only sell 400 tickets. Of course, this can always be renegotiated by the venue if you're not selling that many seats. The other way is simply letting bands keep all or most of that ticket sale, sometimes minus a small fee. So if you have 500 tickets sold for that 500 capacity venue, you're still making $10,000. But if you only sell 400 tickets, that's $8,000 to split between the headliner, the support, the crew, etc. So, how do venues make money if bands are keeping pretty much all of the ticket sales? There are a few ways, including alcohol, and that's the big one. That's the one that we recently talked about on the podcast, that Gen Z is interrupting because they're not drinking as much. Parking is another one. Not all venues have parking, but ones that do make bank selling parking passes. Ticket fees, and that's often kind of correlated with an advance a venue gets when signing with a ticketing provider. Certain VIP experiences are venue run, not all are. Sometimes there's an artist VIP experience instead. And of course, taking a merch cut. When we're talking about merch cuts, we're talking about venues taking 10, 15, 20, 25, 30% of an artist's gross merch sales for the night. Some venues take more, some venues take less, some will waive the merch fee at their discretion, and some never charge a merch fee even though they say they're going to. The accounting at the end of the night will vary by venue, but it's always done during a process. It's called settling up. Some venues will make you count in and out in terms of your merch. So they know how much merch you had when you started, how much merch you ended with. They know the price of the shirt is $20. So if you sell 100 shirts, $20 a piece, and the venue's taking 20%, you can do the math there. They know what they're owed. So even if you cut some discounts and you give some merch away for free, you might have to pay the venue on top of that. Sometimes they'll just trust your inventory sheet and they'll take a cut of that. Sometimes they will make you hire their own merch person because, let's face it, they don't trust you. Sometimes they'll pay for this merch person. Sometimes they'll make you pay for this merch person. And this sucks because at this size of venue that we're talking about, you are probably bringing a merch person from show to show. You've hired them for the tour. Maybe you're paying them nightly, or maybe you're paying them a flat rate. So in that case, the worst case scenario for you economically is you're paying both merch people, the venue one and your personal one, for services that the merch person could not render if they want to. This is also kind of weird for some performers, some bands. Have a merch person that's really been with the band for a long time, as part of the band's family. Like the Hold Steady has Mosh Pit Josh. And when they play a venue where Josh is not permitted to sell and they have to use someone else, that throws off the vibe at the merch table. And frankly, they probably sell a little bit less merch because people miss Josh. But okay, it's time to go way, way, way back like we promised. Though the discourse has really only heated up in the past few years, Decibel magazine estimates that venues taking a cut of artist merch goes back to the 70s or the 80s. And that sounds right to me. You can take the origin story a few different ways though. When the podcast Your Favorite Band Sucks did an episode about Ticketmaster, they talk about the famed manager Irving Azoff, and they were mostly talking about like ticketing fees here, but I believe this could also account for some merch cut fees, essentially. So Irving was a hugely famous, he was ruthless, he was skilled, however you want to describe him. He was a manager for big bands, and he knew how to get money for these bands and get money for himself. So he knew how much money these venues were making in alcohol sales, and he threw his weight and the weight of the bands that he managed around to get them better guarantees that were more than all the revenue the venue could make with the ticket sales. So the idea was, if you don't give me more for this, you're never going to see this other huge band, and you're never going to sell all that alcohol. So that was something that venues started to make that money back in other fees. Ticketing fees is a big way. I believe merch cuts may be related to that. So the story goes, those same venues turned to other sources of revenue, like merch cuts, possibly, definitely ticketing fees, for bands that couldn't negotiate their way out of that added fee to make back some of that lost revenue. But this was larger venues. Even smaller clubs these days often charge merch cut fees. Well, Decibel magazine thinks we can trace that back to the straight edge scene that came up in New York City in the 1970s and 80s. If you're not familiar, straight edge is a hardcore music scene that swears off drugs and alcohol. And, venues make a lot of money from alcohol sales. So what do you, the venue, do so you can still make money at these shows where people are only buying Diet Sprite? Well, what do you, the band, do when you want to play bars and none of your fans drink? It's kind of like both sides are trying to, figure out a solution, and bands allegedly started to offer merch cuts to these venues so they could make back the revenue that the venues were losing from not having alcohol sales. And as that story goes, venues slowly but surely started taking that same cut for every band that played, even the ones with hard drinking crowds. And in case you were wondering, yeah, these merch cut fees can exceed the guarantee a band made that night, especially if you're not the headliner. As a result, some bands have straight up refused to sell their merch at venues and festivals that take larger merch cuts. For some bands who want to price their merch so that fans can afford it versus, doing the typical 40% markup, such a high percentage in a merch cut will negate any profit from this merch, or you might just lose money on it. So it's raise your prices at those venues only, or lose money on merch sales. And as someone who has lost money on merch sales, it sucks. You're doing that to make money, not to lose money. But now, in September of 2023, Live Nation has announced no more merch cuts at their venues. Yay! And they're paying bands an extra $1,500 per show, intended to help cover growing tour expenses like gas, transportation, and hotels. Double yay! Yes, even the openers are going to get that same $1,500, plus they're going to give bonuses to crew and people who work at these venues. Triple yay! Hold up, there's an asterisk there. While this is all capital V, very capital G good news, it's extremely limited and raises some questions. First of all, let's talk about which venues are covered in this program. The ending of merch cuts is part of a program being run with the legendary Willie Nelson called On the Road, after his flagship song, and applies to 77 Live Nation venues across the country, including all of its House of Blues and Fillmore locations. So this is a very specific type of venue we're talking about. I'd argue that bands who are playing this size show are probably among the most in need of this break, especially the support bands for the headliners. This is probably the right size tour that you need to hire more help and are possibly renting a nicer van and a trailer, if not a bus or a bed on a bus. It's not uncommon at all for tours of this size, and really any size, to lose money. And that brings us to the other side of tour economics, the band's side. From whatever money you get paid for gigs, you need to subtract expenses, including gas, which we all know is really expensive right now, van or bus rental. Let's be honest, probably a van, maybe an RV, trailer rental for gear, hotels, because even if you have a tour bus, you're probably still getting a hotel for talent on at least some of the nights. You don't want to sleep on the bus every night. There's upfront costs for merch, so you have to buy all that merch you plan on selling in advance. You may be renting a backline, and for those who don't know, a backline is when you rent out specific pieces of usually heavy gear, drum kits minus breakables, sometimes guitar amps, so that you're not transporting that from city to city. This is more common for flying gigs, but people may use them for tour. Crew wages, including your merch person and possibly the merch person you need to hire from the venue if they're not covering that expense. Meals, because you gotta eat. The cost of fixing things that break, including fingers, which is something that's happened to someone I've been on tour with. They broke their finger the first night and we had to go to urgent care. Other incidental costs, then there are managers and agents who are going to be taking their cut, and you might have a label that takes a cut of everything. It all adds up and it requires substantial upfront costs for merch and rentals. And for band members, talent gets paid last. Bands used to tour to support record sales, and they'd often make decent money between live shows and merch. The record label took most of the album sales, sure, but other than small cuts from agents and managers, performers got to keep the bulk of live revenue and merch. And the reasons the label keeps most of the record sales is a different conversation, but I understand it works differently in book publishing, so I don't know why it can't work that way here, but the gist is when you sign a record deal, you get a portion of money to record the album, to live off of while you record the album, and you have to pay that all back. In books, book publishing, that's all you have to pay is that advance. In the music industry, you have to also pay back the expenses incurred for marketing, PR, and stuff like that, things you don't really have any control over. So it's really astronomically hard to make money on a record deal, even if you're hugely successful. The Dixie Chicks, for example, sold tens of millions of records, and none of them had $1 million in their bank account, which is awful. You might have heard people aren't buying records like they used to. So when people stopped going out and buying CDs or vinyl every week, they had to find another way to make money. Enter the 360 deal. The premise of a 360 deal is that labels are now going to help out with every element of a performer's revenue. Record sales, film and TV sync, so that's like a placement in a movie or in a TV show or in a commercial, merch, and ticket sales. There was a promise of labels earning this money, but if you talk to artists, that's not really what happened at all. And as if it wasn't already hard enough for musicians to pay off their advances to get money from their label, now the label is investing even more money that you have to pay back. So an extra $1,500 per show, even for support acts, plus an extra 10 to 30% of your merch sales staying with you, that's enough to make a band go out of their way to play your venue instead of competing venues. There it is. Though we think of Live Nation as having a total monopoly on venues and ticketing, they don't. But are you really winning at capitalism if you still got competition? Over the years, some performers have gone out of their way to avoid Live Nation venues. And I'm not talking about Pearl Jam and their, in my opinion, failed war against Ticketmaster. All of that, and they saved, 25 cents per ticket. Sorry guys, it didn't really work out. But let's talk about someone who did kind of circumvent Live Nation and Ticketmaster. Louis C.K. And I'm just gonna not get into the can of worms that is his particular can of worms. But I have personal experience with Louis C.K. as a performer who wanted to do something kind of radical with his tour. He hired eTix, which was my employer at the time, to build a white label ticketing system or platform for his tour. So every ticket sale was going through him and his website, not the venues. What everyone quickly figured out was that tons of venues have exclusivity agreements with Ticketmaster, owned by Live Nation, so they had to find the venues that basically weren't owned or managed by Live Nation. And he did it, making a whole lot of money along the way. It's doable. But now, you have incentive to play these Live Nation venues regardless of how you feel about Live Nation. $1,500 more. That's $1,500 more over a venue that never takes merch cuts. $1,500 a night could be the difference between sleeping 3 to a bed at an Econo Lodge located on the top 4 floors of a parking garage in Memphis, or getting everyone their own bed at a nice little La Quinta Inn by Graceland. That's not a personal story at all. Or honestly, the difference between making money on your tour and coming back to overdue rent notices. The National Independent Venue Association, NIVA, which represents independent venues across the country, knows exactly what's happening here. NIVA says, and I quote, "The initiative announced today may seem like a move to follow the lead of some independent venues. It is not. Instead, it appears to be a calculated attempt to use a publicly traded conglomerate's immeasurable resources to divert artists from independent venues and further consolidate control over the live entertainment sector. Such tactics threaten the vitality of small and medium-sized venues under 3,000 capacity, many of which still struggle to keep their doors open." I believe personally that Live Nation doesn't want to help artists, they want to help themselves. Live Nation outright owns a lot of venues, including this size club, and it's easy enough to figure out which ones they completely own outright. It's on their website. I believe there's 138 of them. Live Nation also manages or has partial, if not controlling, interest in a lot of other clubs. They also own a lot of other promoters or have, again, some portion or majority ownership in them. That is a number that's a lot harder to ascertain, and it's probably huge. SEC.gov has a list of Live Nation subsidiaries, and it's in the hundreds. To be fair, a lot of those subsidiaries are variations on Ticketmaster and Live Nation, but a lot aren't. And outside of these 77 venues mentioned in the press release, Live Nation is still going to collect those merch cuts. Don't believe me? Look at the Live Nation special events page. It features venues that aren't officially Live Nation venues according to their main site. What we do know is that 1. Live Nation claims to have managed 43.6 thousand events in 2022. 2. Of the top 100 arenas worldwide, 68 are US based, and Live Nation / Ticketmaster tickets 78% of those. That's the US subset. 3. According to Pollstar's 2022 venue data, the 88 of the top 100 amphitheaters are located in the United States. That's 88 of the top 100 amphitheaters worldwide. Out of those 88, 56 of them are operated by Live Nation, which means that Live Nation operates the majority, 64%, of the top grossing amphitheaters in the United States. And 4. Neither these arenas nor amphitheaters are covered under the On the Road program. And again, according to Live Nation's website, I saw 138 venues listed. Only 77 are on this program. We also know that according to the Washington Post, Live Nation subsidiaries got millions of COVID aid meant for independent venues. That's a program spearheaded by NIVA. They got $19 million. And I am torn on this because part of me thinks that if this money actually went to the people who were operating these venues, I feel kind of okay with it. But the fact of the matter is, even if that money went directly to those employees, that just took away from money that these executives and shareholders could have foregone anyway and given to these employees. $19 million is nothing for Ticketmaster. Do you know how much money they make on some of these tours? It's astronomical. And that they took $19 million that was meant for independent venues, that's awful. I hate that. It's even worse if a penny of that money went to investors. That money was meant to help venues, their media employees, and as a result, artists. Furthermore, I do not fault any one of these venues, the 77 or one of the huge number of Live Nation, not Live Nation venues out there, these venues are largely run by people who love music. It's really not their fault that if you want to work in music and make a living, like a decent living, you're not always going to be able to work with these benevolent forces, with these nonprofit kind of independent venues. If you're in a touring band and are able to take advantage of the On the Road program, I'm happy for you. I'd struggle to turn down that kind of money, especially if I had people that I was responsible for financially, like crew members. But let's try to continue to support the local venues who have supported us, especially the ones who have already signed on as a #MyMerchVenue, link in video description. I want to reiterate that it's my personal belief that Live Nation is doing this to get a leg up against their competitors, many of whom have already ditched merch cuts. And for the record, Live Nation is not doing this for their own public image. I'm sorry, you cannot possibly think that Live Nation nor Ticketmaster give a flying fuck about the public hating them. What are you gonna do? Not see your favorite band on tour? Not see Taylor Swift? Live Nation and Ticketmaster are professional bad guys. The artists know what tickets cost. They know what's going on. If they don't personally, that's on them, and they need to get more situated with the economy of what they do. But yeah, Ticketmaster is just professional bad guys. They don't give a shit about public opinion. It's all about money. Because to quote Billy, the fictional, I think he might have been a real promoter, but he was fictional in the movie Purple Rain, this is a business, and you aren't too far gone to see that yet. Well, to everybody out there, thanks for watching. Thanks for understanding. Please consider using the affiliate links in the video description. Like and comment, subscribe, ring that bell, etc., etc. We also have a Patreon at patreon.com/getoffset. For as little as $5 a month, you get access to our exclusive Discord server. It's a very fun place, and I really love all the people in it. Well, until next time, my name is Emily. Goodbye.